Oh, it was green. Now it's
is it
red.
red?
Uh-huh.
Okay, that's
Okay.
good.
Okay,
Okay.
action.
What sports did you play in high school?
Well, I played football. I was a guard on the team, and we had a pretty good team. It was really hot when we'd start practicing. You know, it was 100 degrees, and I remember
Yeah, remember talking.
I remember falling down and being glad that you were tackled, because if there would be a mud puddle, you could suck up water, because they wouldn't let us have water.
Oh,
See,
wow.
hydrating was not
Something big.
big in those days. So anyway, I played football, and that was fun. And then I played basketball, which is my favorite sport. And we had a C team, and so my first year or second year I was in the C team, and a B team, and then my senior year I was on an A team.
Oh.
And I was not first string because I wasn't very tall. I was a guard on basketball. And we won the San Joaquin Valley Championship
Oh, wow.
for small schools my senior year in basketball. And so it was fun to be on a winning team. And then we actually once, when we were in high school, we played for the small school Valley Championship. We lost that game, but we went to a place called Tehachapi, which is east of Bakersfield, and it's the wind goes over the Sierras, you know, and it happened to be a very windy day.
Oh,
And
wow.
I can still remember we had to punt one time,
Oh.
and we kicked the ball up in the air. I wasn't punting, but I was a guard. Anyway,
Just
it went up in the
fly.
air, and the wind caught it, and we lost 16 yards on a punt.
Oh my gosh.
And I think we caught it. The
wow.
punter caught his own ball.
That's crazy.
Anyway, we lost that game. But I had some really good friends that I played sports with, and like your brother does. So it was fun.
And then other sports like skiing.
And I never liked baseball.
Oh, baseball.
It was too slow for me, so I was not. We played softball in elementary school, and I just never cared for that. I always went hunting because my dad was a big hunter, and we always did.
So when did you start
I didn't do
hunting?
any. Well, I started hunting
When you were like little.
I have pictures of me holding a gun when I was 3 years old.
Oh.
So my dad used to, there were a lot of pheasants on our place and doves, and a lot of guys would come out from the city to hunt on the farm, and my dad would make me drive them around in the pickup and put them in different places. So I was I was a hunting guide by the time I was in high school. Anyway, it was.
So when was the first time you went skiing?
Well, I didn't really. My dad did not believe in golf. He thought that was a waste of time to play golf. So I never played golf as a kid. And skiing, I just never had the opportunity. It wasn't nearly as popular as it is now. About the only place you could ski in those days was there was a place in Yosemite where they skied. But I didn't ski until I was in college. Actually, my sophomore year in college is when I skied. And I had a job of what was called hashing. We washed dishes and served food in the dining halls, and my sophomore year I was doing that in the fraternity where I lived, and we got free food that way and free board and room. And the two of the guys that I worked with were skiers, and they were on the Stanford ski team. They talked me into going to skiing, and I think I've told you that story.
I don't know.
So you don't want to hear that again. Anyway, that's when I was a freshman in high school before I ever got on skis.
And then when was the first time you did like water sports, like water skiing?
Well, in high school, I learned to water ski, I think, in a canal. behind a pickup, being pulled by a pickup. But then I had friends that had boats, and we would go either up to Bass Lake or Friant Lake, which is reservoirs out of Fresno.
Mm-hmm.
And so I learned how to water ski pretty well when I was in high school.
Did you ever have any desire, like big desire to like go real ski after water skiing, or did you not even think about it?
Well, you know, I didn't have the opportunity. So, you know, my parents didn't do it. None of our friends did it. We were poor farmers, you know, out in the boonies. So
Yeah.
I grew up a very different life than what you have. Yeah, it was different times, and you know, economically we were really poor, and until well, when I was in high school, my father was a sharecrop farmer, meaning he didn't own the land.
Mm-hmm.
That and so he did all the work, but his partner owned the land, and I think for fertilizer they did 50-50 on the cost of it or something. Anyway, when my father didn't really make very much money until during the Korean War, which was in the early 50s, and the price of cotton went from 20 cents to 40 cents.
Oh wow.
And you know, that's like if you work for $10 an hour, and then suddenly your wages are double to $20 an hour. You got $10 that you didn't. Yeah. So we bought, you know, my dad bought a new Mercury. We bought, you know, and so so we did have money when I was my last part of high school. And my dad bought a ranch up in the foothills, and we sat in the San Benito Ranch. You've been there, you probably don't remember. But anyway, and we had a cabin on it and a stream, and we dammed it up, and there was a little pond that we would swim in.
Oh.
So that was, in high school I did a lot of that, and spent a lot of time there.
At the ranch.
Right. And my freshman year in high school, I was studying Spanish.
Oh.
And we had a Spanish-speaking Basque sheep herder that had the sheep on our place. So I went out with my Spanish book to talk to this Basque sheep herder, and he gave me 4 lambs.
Oh wow.
And I milked 2 cows a day, so we had to throw milk away all the time. So I fed these lambs with cow's milk by bottles, and then they got up big enough, and then fed them on the things, and then I sold them at a fair.
Oh wow.
At a county fair, and I was in the FFA, which is Future Farmers of America, and I thought I was going to be a farmer. And that's anyway. I sold the lambs, and by that time I found out that there's no status in sheep. You had to be a cattleman to have status. So I bought 10 calves, white-faced calves, and that's how I got started in the cattle business. That was during the Korean War, or just before the Korean War, and the same thing happened to beef as did to cotton. It doubled in price in a couple of years' time, and so what I paid very little for became very valuable. So by the time I was a senior in high school, I had 50 head of cattle.
Oh wow.
And anyway, so we did have cattle on our place, and we had horses. We had 2 gray mares.
So did you ever want to be a farmer when you grew up, or did you?
Well, the more
you thought about it.
well, yeah, my father was a real, he worked hard, and he was a very good farmer. You know, he had clean fields and everything. It was raised good crops and so on. But a lot of times the price of commodities, be it cotton or alpha or whatever, especially things like cotton, it's a worldwide market, and so it doesn't matter how good you are producing it. If somebody can produce it in Egypt or India a lot cheaper than you can,
Then.
then that's, and so I learned that I learned outsourcing, not really outsourcing, but the fact that my father would work so hard and he would lose money because they were raising cotton someplace. He had no control over what he was gonna sell it for.
Oh yeah.
I mean, all he could control how good a crop he had and so on. He had no control over the price of it.
So was he up for you going to like Stanford?
Well, yeah, my parents were they were very supportive of us going to school. And both my brother and I both went to Stanford. So.
And then your sister went
Well, she was older and she went to
junior
junior college in San Francisco.
Oh.
And Uncle Bill went to Fresno State, and he studied business agriculture, and which is what he stayed in most of his life.
Oh.
And he ended up running dairies. I mean, he started working, selling milk, delivering milk door to door, and then to grocery stores, and then he became plant manager where they where they bottled milk, and in his last 20 years or so of his career, he was working for a company that bottled juices mostly, and made fresh orange juice and bottled it. So,
that's cool.
So that all started because he grew up on a farm too.
And you went to high school at the same time he did?
No, because my sister was 7 years older than I was, so she was out of high school.
Wow, so she was out of high school, and then how old?
See, there's more difference in age between my sister and I than there is between you and Andrew.
Oh wow.
Like
And then
2 years. So
how old?
she was, and my sister was a cheerleader,
Oh.
and then her boyfriend was Uncle Bill, and he was a big jock. He was
Wow.
he played all 4 major sports:
Wow.
football, basketball, baseball, and track.
Oh.
He lettered in all 4 sports, all 4 years.
Wow.
He went to a small school, granted, but he did very well. He went to the state meet in low hurdles or high hurdles, I think.
Oh.
Which is really tough, you know.
Did you like him?
Yeah.
When you were.
Oh yeah, we used to go to a lot of his games.
Did you ever think
Because
that?
Barbara was the cheerleader and he was
Oh
in the
yeah.
team. So
Did you ever think that they would get married?
I didn't think of it at that point. But
Didn't really think of that.
yeah. Well, there aren't that many people that marry their high school sweethearts necessarily.
And so how
My
much?
Aunt Barbara had 2 girlfriends that were Betty McClurg and Betty Bossler, or Betty, whatever her name is. The other 2 were Betty's. They were the 3 cheerleaders. There were 3 cheerleaders, and their boyfriends were all athletes. Anyway, those 3 girls married those 3 guys.
Oh my gosh.
And they're all still married. Betty McClurg just died last year, but they've all been married more than 60 years.
Oh my goodness. That's crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, that's who I saw, you know, when I grew up. But that's.
And how much older are you than your brother?
I'm 6 years older than Gary. Do you have some food for us?
Would you like a little lemon square?
Oh, look at Omi is
Sure. Thank
She's
you.
been busy cooking all day and had a great party today, didn't you, Omi?
I did.
Yeah.
Would you like a little napkin? Get you a little napkin.
Omi invited friends for lunch.
How'd that go?
They came at 7. There were 7 of them at 12:30.